Good evening and welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. We've got a packed show for you tonight. I was first going to start off, but let me read. I was first going to start off with NASCAR, but the House passes key government funding bills as lawmakers rush to beat the shutdown deadline. Kristen Sinema, Arizona senator, informs her constituents that she will not run for re-election. The Dartmouth men's college basketball team forms a union. The Supreme Court agrees with Trump and allows him to stay on the ballot in Colorado. NASCAR caught Joey Logano wearing an amphibious-like glove in a cheating violation. Stephen will talk about that. Biden and Trump dominate Super Tuesday as Haley officially exits the presidential race. The U.S. women's cycling team is suspended for dressing their mechanic or a mechanic as a rider to avoid disqualification from the race. Hamas said today it will continue negotiations to reach a ceasefire in Gaza as mediators race to reach a deal before the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. How is your NBA team doing? We'll talk about that. And there is a U.S. bill that would ban TikTok from app stores unless ByteDance diverts its funding. Bipartisan legislation comes amid growing national security concerns tied to its Chinese owner. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell today says inflation is cooling, and although he won't rush rate cuts, he expects that rate cuts will come and more if we can fit it in. First up, since Stephen, I think he's having some sort of difficulty, let's cousin Todd talk about and then Aguna can come in with the NBA. But first, Todd, let's talk about this Dartmouth team. The Dartmouth men's team, and I'll share my screen, formed a union. And Todd, I know you always talked about how the college players should be paid, but for them to form a union says like it's like they're going to be paid. So it says here, Associated Press News, Dartmouth men's basketball team votes to unionize. Those steps remain before forming a labor union. Cousin Todd, what are your thoughts on that before I go in any further?
They should. I think unionizing ensures they get paid, as opposed to a few players complaining. I think them banding together like that will start a trend for other schools, and it's just a smart thing to do. These schools are making millions of dollars on these children, and it's just a good idea. I think I've always thought they should be getting paid. Now, how much is a you can argue about, but they definitely should be making something, especially
So
in these schools where
NCAA,
they're making millions.
so Aguna, NCAA men's Division One basketball. I don't know if they're doing the same thing as the women in terms of allowing some of the college women to get sponsorships from uh, people like Nike or Adidas and I'm not saying they are specifically, but they're getting sponsorships from companies and are getting paid that way as opposed to being paid by, the NCAA or the school. Are the Dartmouth members of this basketball team doing this in anticipation of some sort of payment they expect to get, and where would they get that payment?
Yeah, I mean, I think now it's coming. We've seen it in the last couple of years where even kids in high school, middle school are getting sponsorships, and they're getting they're basically their own brands, right? So it's coming down to and then with all the money in sports now, I mean, with sports betting and things that are happy sponsors and stuff, it's just a matter of time. So, there's definitely a big opportunity, and they're taking advantage of that. So, yeah, I think it's an anticipation of the market trend and in a capitalistic society that and what we're in. You got to pay people what their market value is, right? And to Todd's point about the millions of dollars that these schools are making, and then when you start to get into the gaming, the selling of their images and things like that. I mean, this is just a matter of time to kind of position them to take advantage of, again, their product. They are their brands, so they should be able to capitalize off of that.
So if we look at this, Keith, the article says, and I don't know if you can see it, it says the team voted to unionize Tuesday, which was yesterday, in an unprecedented step toward forming the first labor union for college athletes, and another blow to NCAA's deteriorating amateur business model. In an election supervised by the National Labor Relations Board in the School Human Resources Office, the players voted 13-2 to join Service Employees International Union Local 560, which already represents some of the Dartmouth workers. Every player on the roster voted, but it was 13-2. So 2 said no, they should not be unionized. Your comments?
Well, I would agree with the 2. It shouldn't be unionized, but that's the way it goes in this climate, in this culture. I guess they figure the union is going to be able to negotiate much better or higher, salary or whatever you want to call it. And, money wise. So that's all they're looking at there. But I find it interesting. This is where we're going. Everything's about money, and they do need help. And I've said before that I think they have a right if their image is being sold or shown, their image, like what Aguna said. I agree with that. They should get paid for it. As far as having a union, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that.
Well, how would they ensure getting paid without the union? I don't.
Well,
what is the problem with the union?
There is so-called. There's agents. It's called
agents in college.
Just like Hollywood, and entertainers, they have agents.
Yeah, this is college, not professional.
Hey, well, their image is being shown. They should have agents. That's my opinion.
Wait. So I think
here's the thing, Todd. The thing is, so let's say my son goes and plays at Dartmouth, and he's a top Division 1A prospect. He's getting all kind of endorsements. He's doing all these things. Should he be constrained by a union? If he's the number one moneymaker on it, I mean, people are coming and people are actually sponsoring because of him. Should he get the same portion or same, as another player who's riding the bench?
It should be negotiated by his agent, like I said, not a union, because unions always want something out of it, and unions, they may take a bigger piece of the pie than they deserve. I would rather.
And it depends on the contract you negotiate. I mean, if they're under the basketball,
this is what happens on the show. I could ask a question, and then it just
let them negotiate with their agent, not with the union.
Unions that's what the show is about. You don't like the show. You don't like being able to talk about these things. Todd, what's wrong with you?
Yes, I'd like to talk. I would like to talk about it, but I would like for us to use a little common sense.
Oh, okay.
I was asked the question, then you asked the question. Let it just go around. Don't let these Trump supporters bait you into this.
Well, look at Serena. Serena,
you see the Trump supporter.
Her relationship with her father, Serena and Vanessa. Their relationship with their father, Venus. I'm sure they had, agents. And maybe the father is the agent. Just like Tiger Woods and his son. So, why do they have to have a union, belong to a union? It just, let them have an individual negotiating agent. That's just my opinion.
So I've given anti-union.
Yeah, I am pretty much.
So
pretty much because I don't need. They don't have their best interests at heart. they have their own
So
interests. The unions have their
let
own
me
interests.
read this.
I know.
What's on the screen? Let me read this. It says Dartmouth had told students that unionizing could get them kicked out of the Ivy League or even the NCAA. In a statement, the school said it was supportive of the 5 unions it negotiates with on campus, including the SEIU Local 560, but insisted that the players are students, not employees.
See?
Who wants to comment on that?
See that? Well, again, a student can have, if their image is being liked, they liked their image, then they should be able to get paid, but let it be done, negotiated by an agent, a personal private agent, not a public union. That's just, less chance of that kind of thing.
Are all unions public?
I don't know.
I don't know. Because I was part of a union once in my life, right? And then it was
And then you start making a ton
I
of
don't
money.
know if I necessarily like being part of the union because you were capped at the amount of money you could make from a promotion.
All right, Aguna. Yes.
So but that was again, but you were guaranteed a certain amount of money as well. So
yeah,
I mean, it just depends.
Well,
New Jersey is like the center of unions.
Well, an agent can do that too. An agent, you don't have to have a union. I mean, I'm looking at the entertainment business. I look at, I don't know that much about entertainment, but I do know a little bit about Hollywood. I used to dabble into it, and they've got these unions that negotiate for you. But I'd rather have an agent. I have a friend of mine who has a daughter who is an agent, and they can negotiate much better. And
again, the Todd's point about them being college students, maybe not all of these players are the same. They're not collectively the same talent-wise. Otherwise, why would you even have a team, right? Some people ride the bench, some people, play more than others.
And you hear Aguna say that because I think Aguna's talking from experience because his son is very, very athletic. And he knows how good his son is, and he sees how good his son is. And so he's talking from experience.
Do I want my son to have to split his check with somebody who, a developmental player or something like that? Nah, it's a little bit different. But I get it. But there's also, so there's two sides of this. That's why it depends on the union contract. It all comes down to that, because if it's the side where you're saying, hey, everybody's equal, everybody gets a nice standard cap, all that stuff, that we need to talk about. But if it's saying, hey, we're an entity in order to force these conversations around pay equity and things like that of athletes, that's a little bit different. Can an agent do that? Yeah. But I mean, a collective voice is always stronger in those.
Let's see what Nas says. About
he jumped off the line.
The good Reverend Doctor somehow got disconnected.
He didn't see Stephen, and I was like, this thing.
And Stephen actually is having technical difficulties, so Stephen may not be able to join us.
The FBI actually blocked him. The FBI actually finally got a hold of him.
The good Reverend Doctor, welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. We're talking about Dartmouth men's Division I basketball team. Actually, we keep losing him. Actually, formed the first ever union by an NCAA team, and Dartmouth said that because they did that, the school may be kicked out of the Ivy League. Your comment, Reverend Doctor.
Really? Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this a couple of years ago. And good evening to everybody. God is good.
All right. Good
Thank you. I was wondering if y'all knew what to say. I think Keith did. But so Northwestern tried to do this a couple of years ago, and they ended up putting pressure on a kid who was like a fifth-year senior who was going to get to start, and the administration put pressure on him in order to break it up, and it worked. But this time with NIL and everything else, we're at the emperor has no clothes phase of the NCAA. Like, everybody understands they're just the arm for punishment, but they can't actually do anything, and they don't really provide any value. They just roll everything out for everybody else. So these kids are understanding that, and by unionizing, they're going to get a situation where the schools have to pay. And there's going to be a stipend. Yes, it's going to be pretty much everybody gets the same thing. and then you're going to be eligible to make your own money by, name, image, and likeness, your own ability to have sponsorships by local companies or nationwide companies if you're a big enough star, but you're going to have that floor of a stipend, and that's going to be paid by the schools. Now you got to ask yourself, as you see them thinking about dropping out of the Ivy League, what difference do these conferences make, and what difference does the NCAA make? Because eventually we're going to get to a space where the big football schools decide we're going to create a super conference. We don't need the NCAA. We're not splitting and sharing money with bad schools. And a lot of schools are going to have to drop out of athletics and have to go back to intramural. So some of these schools that are barely getting by, but they're spending all this money flying all across the country and everything else for football and basketball, they're going to have to get rid of those sports. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Wow.
Okay, let's move
Now,
on to
what I
NBA.
was, oh my God. Okay, move
You were
on.
going to say something about
Move on.
sports. Go ahead,
No,
Todd.
we can move on. I hate
No,
this
go ahead,
show.
cousin Todd.
This show is
Todd,
hilarious.
don't
No,
give
Don't
go
let them
keep moving.
discourage you.
I
Don't let them
know.
discourage you, Todd. I want to hear
Go
the
on.
question, man.
Okay, I was just going to say about a floor. This is what I was going to say like a half hour ago. Uh, the Affordable Health Care Act was to build a floor where you don't have subpar insurance. Same thing for these colleges, this union. This isn't to take away from Aguna's son or any of that. It is just so that the masses can be paid for their services. And so also, it's not mandatory. You don't have to join the union. That's all I was going to say. Doesn't that make
No.
good sense?
Yep, it's a great point, man.
Thank you, Ty.
Okay,
Every now and then
on
you
to
make sense.
on to NBA. Aguna,
Oh man, what
you still
do we
crying
do
about
with
the
that?
Sixers?
I mean, the Sixers. I mean, they won a game the other day. I think they beat the Cavs, but they're teetering around that 6-7 seed. Now, the good thing about it is there are a bunch of teams like in that bucket, so they can move all the way up to the like the 4th seed or all the way down to out of playoff contention. It just depends on how the month of March pans out. We were hoping that Embiid would be back sometime this month, even though there's rumors that he's going to be sitting out. But if we can just, maintain a little bit, we could just right the ship a little bit, win a couple of these winnable games, we could probably make a run of this thing. I don't think we're going to drop all the way completely out of playoff contention, but I don't want to go up against Boston or Milwaukee with Embiid just coming back. So we'll see. But yeah, it's nothing really to cheer about. Free agency for the NFL is coming up, so I'm cheering about that. But other than anything else, this really sucks to be a Sixers fan right now.
Yeah, it's hard being a Philadelphia fan any time of the year. Anyone else want to talk about with the Philadelphia professional sports teams? Sometimes they're
And I
hot,
know
sometimes
the
they're
good
not.
doctor. I mean, he dropped off. Okay, so I guess I know he wasn't about to talk about the Hawks, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I don't know how he got disconnected. And Steven is still trying. He's having technical difficulties. He's still trying to get connected. Anyone else? Cousin Ty, did you want to talk about the NBA before we moved on?
Yeah. I think the NBA now, the way it's going, I think they'll probably do great at soccer games.
Thank you, Ty.
You're welcome.
Let me just give you some fashion. You can't wear an Adidas hat with a polo shirt.
I can do anything.
No, you
I
cannot.
want to do.
Shame on you. Surprise.
That's allowed, Todd. Don't listen to him, man.
I don't
Oh
listen to
wow,
him.
Todd, he took your word, Todd.
Yeah, I
Surprise!
know they
Surprise. You gotta
copy
be
everything.
surprised.
Now, with the retirement of Jason Kelsey, the injury to Joel Embiid, Philadelphia, eventually you get back to who you actually are. Y'all had a couple years, things were looking sweet. Now we're back to the tears of Philadelphia. I love it. Can you feel it? Can you feel it, Aguna?
Not really.
It's back.
Not like
back
we were
to,
down,
back to
28-3
normal,
in the Super Bowl and then lost that thing. It's not like we did anything like that. Not like we, You know, we never won a championship as the Eagles. And how
Oh,
many championships do the Hawks have? I don't even know. I really don't know how many championships the Hawks have, by the way.
You still don't
what
get
about
it.
the Falcons?
I'm in Atlanta. You can't hurt me any more than those teams have already done, sir. You can't hurt me. The difference is you Philly people still believe. And I love it. I'm gonna watch y'all get y'all heart broken every year. I can't wait.
So you're jealous.
For the playoffs,
Translation.
and I'm
Let's
just gonna
translate
enjoy
this.
it.
You are jealous. That's the translation I'm hearing. You are jealous that we have hope versus being.
Oh, not jealous. I enjoy it. I want to
Okay.
As long as you admit it.
As long as you admit it. Because this is not even fair. It's not even fair to have this conversation with you because you have nothing to stand on. It's like just talking. It's like talking about a high school team compared to the pros. It's like we are a passionate fan base. Yes, we are a committed fan base. I know those things don't resonate with Atlanta.
Y'all still got that jail under y'all stadium to arrest y'all fans who are unruly. And
No.
Look,
That was the
look.
previous
It's perception and reality. I embrace the brand. I embrace that. Okay. So, but I digress. Stop being jealous.
These people,
they
booed Beyonce, Todd. They booed Beyonce. These are terrible people. Don't
let
these
Santa Claus.
We absolutely we didn't boo Beyonce. We booed Destiny's Child, and because nobody should have had them show up to the First Union Center with Lakers stuff on during the finals. You don't wear Lakers. They should have all had Philly stuff.
That's a problem. You're right, Aguna. Aguna ain't said nothing but the truth. Don't hate.
There you go.
Aguna has said nothing but the truth the whole time.
Good doctor.
Yeah, and I've called Verizon. Stephen, your service will not be returned until this show is over.
Who says he has
That's
Verizon?
what happens. You got to connect through the dark web. You can't go through the dark web to get on the.
Well, the Obama phone really isn't equipped to keep up like this.
Look, he's on. He's on. He's actually on. We just can't see him. You know, he's like.
All right, let me share my screen. I want to move on to the U.S. cycling team, and this happened maybe a week ago, February 27th. The U.S. women's cycling team, Sineska, has been suspended by the International Cycling Union, the sport's global governing body, for perpetrating a fraud and dressing a mechanic as a rider in order to avoid disqualification from a race.
Well, hold on, man. I haven't heard perpetrating a fraud as a phrase in a long time, so I'm just glad whoever included that in the paragraph. Good job.
Yeah, you can see it written there. In a statement, the UCI said Sineska required 5 riders in order to take part in last July's Argenta Classic in Belgium, but arrived at the start line with only 4. Then sports director Danny Van Hout told the 4 riders, Anna Hicks, Cara O'Neill, Catherine Sarkoso, and Claire Windsor, to lie about the whereabouts of the 5th rider, who they said was ill. After informing the team they needed a 5th rider in order to compete, the UCI said Van Hout told team mechanic Maura Barrett to wear a rider's clothes and face mask, sign the start sheet as a rider, and then present herself at the starting line. The above-mentioned members of the team were therefore all found to have participated in a fraud under Article 12.4.008 of the UCI regulations with different levels of implication.
Perpetrating a fraud.
Oh,
now, in a statement to the CNN, the team called the incident a one-time mistake by a rogue director. They said at the time of the event, the other team management staff were unaware of the deception carried out by Mr. Van Hout and the mechanic. Upon learning of the incident, the team took actions internally and terminated all current and future relationships with Mr. Van Hout and the mechanic. The team then fully cooperated with the investigation. They understand the need for disciplinary action taken by the governing body. The team did not and will never condone this sort of behavior. On behalf of the team, we once again apologize to the event organizers for the behavior that occurred at the event. The problem with this is this may disqualify the Americans from participating in the Olympics this summer in Paris. What say you, Keith?
Well, they should have been more tactical. They should have addressed that mechanic. They should have chosen a man, and then they could say, well, that's discrimination. Or maybe a black man, You know, a black man, yes, dress him up, you know, and have him play on the women's team, or a transgender. And then they could have claimed it was discrimination, and then maybe they would have been okay then.
Or you could
Oh
have just
my.
got on the team as a transgender.
Who?
Chief.
Who?
Ah!
I didn't hear that, Todd.
He said, Chief, get on the ship.
Oh boy, I tell you.
He's
Well-
fixated on transgenders. For
things that-
example,
Yes,
he's
worried
in
about-
love with Bruce Jenner.
I mean,
He
they're
said
worried.
that was his hero, the Great
They're
White
worried
Hope.
about fraud. Come on. I mean, the way people are doing nowadays, you know. This,
Aguna?
anyway,
So yeah, I think the pun. I mean, it's hard. Bottom line is, the guy got fired, cheated, got fired. Let's move on. Now, if you want to do some broad investigation, I think it was a desperate move by a desperate guy, and he paid the price for it. I don't know if anybody else should go down, but clearly he is very desperate in that situation. But yeah, I don't think there's any other story to that. I think they punished him. They made the statement.
Thank you. Cousin Todd, did you make your comment about this?
Yes.
Okay,
Not
now we're going to go
interested.
right on to Black History
Well,
Month.
why-
because
I
we
mean, why
started
you gonna
Black
skip me,
History.
though?
Oh,
Black
I'm sorry,
History
the good
Month is
Reverend
over
Doctor.
us.
Go ahead, good Reverend Doctor.
feel
He
like that
hates
was on
good
purpose.
common sense. Yeah.
I feel
No,
like
it
that was on
wasn't
purpose.
actually.
Well, okay. So first things first, I'm gonna connect these two stories we just did. So first thing, understand, this is a cheating sport. It's part of the lifeblood of that sport. The great Lance Armstrong didn't cheat himself to all those victories for other people to act like they play within the rules in that sport. That's just what that sport is. Now they happen to get caught, so the guy got fired. Big deal. We'll talk about this when the Olympics come up and when there's a scandal. Besides that, we actually don't care about this sport. And most people would question
We
if you
do
told
care.
them, hey, should this be in the Olympics? I don't think they would win the poll. Most Americans would say, no, that should probably not be in the Olympics. Now, why am I tying the two stories together? Non-revenue sports, the welfare sports, that's your golf, tennis, cross-country skiing, things like this, cycling, things like that. People get scholarships for all across the country, which are paid for by the revenue sports, football and basketball, which pay for these scholarships that go to so many people who happen to be
And
what?
baseball.
Cousin Todd, can you guess the demographics here
Todd doesn't
for the
like that.
non-revenue sports?
Todd doesn't like
I think Cousin Todd knows the demographics of these non-revenue sports. So these
Yes.
non-revenue welfare sports, who are basically using the sweat equity of the basketball and football players in order for them to go to campus for free, and then these people want to tell you they're concerned with DEI while they watch all these welfare students get these scholarships for sports nobody actually cares about and only their family shows up to see.
nicely
All right,
put.
that wasn't
Very
nice.
good.
That wasn't nice.
Very
Good
Very
Reverend Doctor.
good.
That was not nice at all.
That was
That
good.
was
And we care about
fabulous.
all sports. That was not nice talking about his welfare. And welfare it helps people who need a hand up. It's not supposed to be a bad negative thing. Why you gotta make a negative connotation to welfare?
Oh,
It
I just
wasn't.
said the word. You taking the negative
Yeah.
connotation. If you think it's okay for the Harvard row team to all get scholarships worth, $400,000 because they're on the road team, do you want to watch them move oars in a little boat in the middle of the
Yeah, I
stream?
used
Do
to
you want
row.
to go see that?
I used to row. Yes, I do.
So
I
that's
used to row.
That's
Yeah.
unfortunate, Stacey. And you did not demand that two people broadcast it on TV because nobody wanted to see it.
Well, I was too busy rowing on the Potomac.
Welfare sports.
All right,
Very good.
moving on to Black History Month. We started Black History Month
Wait,
late last month.
I want to talk about this rowing thing. Did your parents row too?
Did your parents row?
No, ma'am. No,
On to
they
Black
didn't
History
row.
Month.
But how did you learn how to row? Your people taught you that how to get to America from Africa. Did you learn? Well, I'm just trying to figure out. I can't understand where you start rowing.
Todd,
and
where
why.
are you going with this, Todd? Where are you going with this, Todd?
I'm
Oh, God.
bored. I'm bored.
She's a
I
rower.
used to row with a rowing team on the Potomac. I'm interested in rowing. It's a sport,
Why would you get
and we're going
interested
to
in
move
that?
on.
When did you get
Who,
interested in
who
that?
who won the championship last year, Stacey?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Black History
Interesting.
Month. Keith, we're still talking
Yeah, I
about
got to
Black
hear
History Month
this
because
one.
we started late.
What do you
Hey.
got for Black History Month? Since your
Well,
buddy's not here.
Yeah, nobody knew right now. Okay, I can bring Gail Sayers, one of my favorite running back.
Oh my gosh.
You're talking
See,
about sports. Gail Sayers. I like there was an infomercial some time back, and Gail Sayers was it's sort of like Gail Sayers, Jim Brown. Those are the old school guys. And Gail Sayers, I think, was one of the best running backs ever because the guy, he said in this commercial, "Give me 18
Probably.
inches of daylight. That's all I need." He said,
And
"Give me 18
you
inches."
probably like him so much
And
because
boy, that
his
dude.
boyfriend was white.
I look at old clips, video clips of him. Oh man, this guy he was awesome
Oh,
as a running
he's
back.
still my
So that
heart.
is my Black History
All right,
hero.
thank you. Thank you
Hey,
so much. He did it
yeah,
nicely. And of course, Todd
exactly.
interrupted.
Great job, Keith. By the way, I know your buddy Steven isn't on here because the cross burning in his front yard is probably blocking the signal, to to the show. But he came on here
Not
with
nice
Aunt
of you.
Jemima. He came out here of all the people in Black history he could honor. He honored Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. And said that we as African Americans should be pissed off and insulted that they took these images, these stereotypes off these products, and therefore we should be outraged. Right? I thought that was pretty interesting. I still I have people talking about that. That was hilarious. But for all our listeners and viewers, that should give you some pause just to think about the audacity of someone to come on here during Black History Month and for Keith to be over there applauding and egging him on as if that was something that was great. Because we could have talked about Thurgood Marshall. We could have talked about Martin Luther King. We could have talked about anybody. Instead, he talked about Aunt Jemima and some mammy character and saying that was a classic one. But
I really agree with him.
digress.
I agree with him.
Of course you do. Why are we not surprised? Of all the things African Americans have done throughout history, the one thing we should be angry about is taking Aunt Jemima off the box of a pancake mix.
That's right.
That is just something we need to stand up and march.
Because it shows history. It talks about history. That's the Black history. And as part of the American.
Who were these people? If you know so much about these, who was Aunt Jemima? Do tell, Keith.
I don't know who she was.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go, everybody. That's our history, and you don't know.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything, Aguna, about Black history?
Yeah, okay. I do want to. My favorite history fact is Thurgood Marshall, Black Supreme Court Justice. I think because we are talking about so much, you see what we got in the court now. You see what they're doing. You see how somehow they reserved themselves to passing laws. I didn't know I'd ever be in my lifetime, see a Supreme Court that is so weighing in on, and it's almost like Congress. They're trying to pass laws and do things. But anyway, Thurgood Marshall, he's also a member, or was a member, late great member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which I am a lifetime member of. So always great to honor that good brother. And of course, Martin Luther King, who was also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So, those are, of course, would be, both of two icons I like to honor during Black History Month, and that we all should reflect on not only social justice and some of the things from a civil rights perspective, but also, what the Supreme Court is, who is on there, and lifelong impacts of the bench when it comes to our lives and our daily lives. So just something to reflect on.
Thank you. Cousin Todd. Black History Month.
Benny Williams was a judge too, right? Yeah.
No.
I wanted to honor oh my gosh, her name just left my
Trayvon Martin.
No.
The tennis player.
Which Trayvon Martin is a good one, but I thought you were going to talk about Trayvon Martin.
Arthur Ashe.
But I was going to talk about the black woman who ran for president. The name just escaped me.
Shirley Chisholm.
Shirley Chisholm. The audacity for her to run for the presidency of the United States. I think she is brilliant. I think she's whip smart. And I think she did well for black women, all women actually in America. And so I'm going to pay tribute to her. Shirley Chisholm.
Thank you. The good Reverend Doctor.
I thought he meant Kim.
Yeah, I'm going to use a recent person. His name is Clay Kane. He's an author. And he has a book out right now called The Grift, The Downward Spiral of Black Republicans from the Party of Lincoln to the Cult of Trump. And this is a really good book. And it really gets into not only the conservative mindset, but just the idea that Black Republicans would become like comfort dogs for racism and bigotry. And the idea that they would individualize themselves in a way and disconnect from their communities in such a strategic and almost sorrowful way that they almost lose themselves in within trying to get a pat on the head from people who essentially are disgusted by them. So, yeah.
You're talking about brothers Tim Scott.
Very good.
Tim Scott.
So that's very interesting. What is that author's name again?
The author's name is Clay Kane, ClayCane. He's done the rounds, through TV shows and everything, kind of describing the book. But I would suggest people check the book out because he really gets into how the Black Republicans of the 1800s, we're talking about, radicals who are against the conservative group at the time, the Democrats, and they're against all of their policies. They're trying to create a new world. And then we get the shift from Dem to Republic, and we get this thing where people decided, hey, I can make some money if I jump the fence over to the other side, and are diametrically opposed to all things that Black people in America are fighting for or think are good collectively. And they kind of put a emphasis on this idea of themselves being the only free thinkers, as if everyone else is the one who's wrong. So yeah.
No, do tell. You don't see that at all, right, Keith?
So if you look at the screen, you can see that's a picture of Clay Kane. He looks a little bit like Cousin Todd.
Nah, he's too light skinned for Todd. This guy is,
He looks familiar.
Keith already doesn't like him.
No, he looks like somebody I know. Somebody he does, but sorry.
You don't think he looks like Cousin Todd?
No,
I don't think so. Look at that hairline, Todd. I mean, and then he doesn't have. Look, he doesn't have. What does the Bible say? Hair of wool of lamb and sheep, like Todd's beard.
So
yeah,
anyway, I have curly hair. I'm jealous, but let me also talk about Trayvon Martin.
Wait, hold on.
Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, I'm paying tribute to Trayvon Martin for Black History Month. Stacey was a little bit late getting it started, so it bled over to Women's Month. I also wanted to talk about, that's why I used Shirley Chisholm, because this is Women's Month. I know you probably all don't know anything about that.
No.
Nevertheless,
we were all born from women.
Did you know it was Women's Month? Yes or no?
Yes, I did. Actually, I did.
I did.
Okay. Of course,
it's
you
also
did.
Employee Appreciation Month.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about Trayvon Martin because he was a little boy growing up in the United States of America, being hunted just for doing what children do.
Being hunted.
Hunted, yes, that's right. Perhaps this will happen to one of your family members, and then you'll understand what that means. So he was going to the store to get candy and something to drink, and he was hunted like an animal. And he lost his life because this freak who thought he was white was following him while he was on the phone with his girlfriend and saying, "This weirdo is following me." So he tried to shake him. And mind you, the weirdo was on the phone with the police telling them about this strange black guy in the neighborhood. Sir, do you live in that neighborhood? No. Are you following him? Yeah. Stop following him, sir. And he wouldn't. And
No,
so
stop following him.
he killed this young black boy, and nothing happened to him. Matter of fact, he didn't even go to jail that night. So this is what it is for little black children living in America. And to this day, I'm baffled by that. So
Not
anyway,
true.
I wonder what he would have been had he lived.
And Trayvon approached him.
Well,
you
perhaps
don't,
somebody
you don't
will
get to
follow your
stalk and
wife
follow somebody
after, being stalked. So perhaps somebody will follow your wife around and let's see what she does in the dark, in the
you don't get to
rain.
stalk and follow somebody, but just even the fallout after, like Cousin Ty, like after it happened, and we get the GoFundMe's where hundreds of thousands of dollars are given to Zimmerman,
A
and all
murderer.
of these people are coming out in support of him. I think they sold the gun for $100,000, the gun that actually killed him. And it's like it just brings you back to the idea of Nat Turner's being skinned alive and
Yes.
people selling his body parts. They
Mhm.
used his skin for a lampshade that they sold.
Yeah.
Sold his fingers, toes,
Yeah.
everything else. You just kind of just get an idea of that when you see
Yeah.
something like this. And the
Yes.
story became so so huge because this was one of the first big social media stories where everybody's seeing this in real time. And all the
Mhm.
things that black folks have been saying about surveillance, about the police, about all these different things in society
Mhm.
to actually attack them, you actually get the story from beginning to end of this night and this tragic kid losing his life
Mhm.
and it being explained away in whiteness. And this kind of leads up to the ramp up of what we call Trumpism now, where the
Mhm.
backlash of a black president being elected and
Mhm.
all of this anger.
Mhm.
The conservative movement right now is only driven by anger. It's not driven by policy,
Oh, absolutely.
legislation, thought,
Mhm.
anything. It's just all driven by anger. That's the only thing that puts oxygen in the room for them.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you brought that
Correct.
up.
Because any other story, everybody would coalesce around the fact that it was wrong. But the fact that it brought outrage from the left or from another group was the reason to fuel this whole sentiment on the right. You see it with Keith right now. It's like, oh, he approached him. He's overlooking the fact that the police were on the phone, people. They were on the phone telling him to leave him alone. So it's like, oh, yeah, but at the same
This
time,
is
you have the
after
right
being stalked.
he's being stalked. So it's like someone's stalking you. You don't have the right to confront this person. Hey, leave me alone. What are you doing? You break out in a scuffle and the person shoots you, and all of a sudden that person, the law's on
You're
his side,
wrong.
right?
Right.
And the fact that he's a black young man, if he was white, I'm telling you, we wouldn't be having this
Oh my gosh.
conversation. Okay,
No.
we would be having this conversation. And to
No.
acknowledge that and understand that this country in its entirety is not perfect and okay with that. But we should coalesce around right and wrong when it comes to this situation and
That's
not
all.
just jump on the fact that it outraged the left or outraged this other group of people. And they rallied around it and they called for justice. And therefore, because I feel that I'm a conservative or I'm all the way over
Right.
here, yeah, those
Right.
people are pissed off. Therefore, I'm for whatever they're against.
That's right. And as a matter of fact, he never should have had on a hoodie. So it's his fault in the
So let
rain.
me share my screen. I was just thinking as you said that, Todd, whatever happened to George Zimmerman? And I found an article that talks about where is George Zimmerman now. And it says in 2019, if you can see that,
He got a
he filed
divorce.
a $100 million defamation lawsuit against Trayvon Martin's parents.
You see how sick?
Just this month, it was dismissed. And in early 2020, he filed a $265 million defamation suit against two presidential candidates for allegedly defaming him in tweets. A year later, a judge dismissed that.
So he got that lawyer off the side of the bus, basically. He giving him all kind of Fat Albert Y'all remember the cartoon Fat Albert? Like the numbers they would make up on there. 59 trillion could kill. Like, dude, if you don't get this nonsense off the court docket, boy, and go on somewhere.
And that was written in
Murderer.
that article was written in 2022. Let's move on to I think what is the newest news, which is let me share my screen. Nikki Haley has dropped out of the race, and I think the Super Tuesday primary caused Nikki Haley to drop out of the race as a GOP candidate, leaving it to one candidate, Donald Trump, former president. Keith,
Well, hold on. Before you go to Keith, I have the audio of the phone call. Nikki,
what phone call?
Hey, Nikki. Oh, this is from the Koch brothers. Hey, Nikki. Hey. It's Super Tuesday. I'm sorry. We can't send you any more money. You're going to have to end this thing, Nikki. Yeah. I know. But we'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. We'll get you writing some articles. We'll get you some appearances on Fox. It's no big deal. You have a second career. But this is over, baby. We're not sending you any more money. And end of story. I'm sorry. That was the phone call. I'm sorry.
That was the phone call. Deal with it.
So I did think a while ago that Nikki Haley, I was hoping that a woman, because this is, March is Women's Month, I was hoping that a woman would be candidate for president, be a viable candidate for president, and she is not.
Whoa.
But it seems as though America wants to see a rematch of a fight. You always notice with fights that America always likes rematches. So it seems like they're looking for a rematch between Trump and Biden, Keith.
No, we were not looking for a rematch.
Stacey, you don't consider Kamala Harris a viable candidate for president as she was?
Who's on the ticket?
I just thought I'd ask you that later. You don't have to answer it.
He wants to get you. That's what his goal is.
That's going to be the theme going into the fall. That's their theme. I mean, if you elect Biden, you're really
well. She's not running for president. She's vice president running for vice president. But I'm talking about
trying to pivot.
Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. Nikki Haley dropping out, and Donald Trump and Joe Biden having a rematch. Do you want to comment on that? Because America seems to like rematches and fights.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I don't care about rematch is fine. Trump is tough.
Yeah, all I care about is trying to get you every chance I get.
Because I'll just say Trump is a tough dude. He's a tough mother lover. And that dude, and none of the people on this show want to admit that.
You mean a tough adulterer?
Man's man.
We don't lose sleep over that. So what is his platform?
He's a man. What makes him a man's man?
What's his platform?
You mean what makes him a man's man? The fact that he has affairs on his wives.
At him. Look what they've thrown at him. They've
the
thrown
fact that he sleeps with prostitutes.
Thrown the entire
is that what makes him a man's man?
Weight of the government on him, and yet
you don't have it like Stephen. You need Stephen on here to help you.
Has strengthened him, fortified him, so that they who fight against
Stephen on
how do you know he's not an atheist?
Because God is with him.
His sister said he does not go to church and he doesn't believe
abortion.
Not prevailing.
Okay, one at a time. Thank you, Keith. The good Reverend Doctor
talked over me.
I know you.
That's what you did to me earlier in the show.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Keith.
Without him talking,
all that you are, Keith. Thank you.
Talk over
the
them,
good Reverend Doctor.
You did that to me earlier.
Do you want to comment on what this means in terms of a rematch between Trump and Biden?
I should talk over them.
Yeah, I disagree with the premise that Americans necessarily wanted a rematch. I think ultimately the DNC and the RNC are separate entities and they act in the interest of their donors. So the idea of Biden, I don't think is very viable. I think a lot of Dems would have pushed somebody else up to that front seat and would have retired Biden. And as far as the Trump side, the Republicans openly, by bankrolling Nikki Haley, are telling you they actually wanted another option. But the MAGA base, which is, I would say, about what, 55, 60%
you mean the people
of Republicans?
You mean the people of the United States?
Well, if we're talking about voters, then we're talking about people, obviously. But
Yeah.
if that's only 60% of the Republican Party, it's not the full Republican Party, as shown by Nikki Haley being bankrolled and just now dropping out. So he doesn't have complete ownership of the party, but the choice was made for them. So I think the American people have gotten stuck with these two old folks running, but I don't think this is the rematch they wanted.
Nikki
Right.
Haley had a bunch of Democrats who supported her.
Aguna,
Yeah, so I
excuse me,
mean, and that's
Steve.
the sad part about it is you got all this white noise here in the background, but the fact of the matter is Nikki Haley would have beaten Biden in a general election. I mean, she's
No.
younger. She could connect with
Well,
suburban
we
voters.
don't care because we're
All
in
of
love
those
with
things
Trump.
are things that are viable, and she's articulate. And by the way, she was good enough for Trump. Trump hired her, right, to be Secretary of State. So clearly, there's some qualities that are good about her, right, Keith? But at the end of the day,
No.
there's this.
UN
There's this
ambassador.
UN ambassador,
Ambassador
I'm
to the
sorry, not
United
Secretary
Nations,
of
not
State.
Secretary of State.
So if you look at what's happening, if you look at Trump's character and look at the people who work for him, look at the people who've been on his cabinet, look at what they're saying about him, and you're still in this camp where he's this and that, he's a leader, he's the love of America. Again, clearly you're looking at the fight in the dog, not the dog in the fight, right? It's just because he pisses other people off, because most people are insulted that this guy should even be running on the ticket. And that insult is what you're gravitating around, because you can't talk about his platform. You don't know his policies. You don't know what he's going to do when he gets into office. All you know is all these.
Yes, he does. He's going to go after his enemies. And that's good.
Clearly, that's good enough for some people in America. So I think it's very scary. I think it's scary that the fact that, there's a certain demographic of the United States that actually wants this guy to win. And then I don't even think they want him to win. I just think they want Biden to lose. They want him. They want the disappointment of other Americans and the fact that we can do better than Trump. I mean, if Trump is the best we can do as Americans, we're in trouble, period. If he's the best we can do.
Nikki Haley lied. She will not support Trump. She said she will not endorse Trump.
Okay.
So that's where she stands.
Okay, thank you. Cousin Todd. Let me get Cousin Todd in, please. Go ahead, Cousin Todd.
I was just going to comment on what Aguna was saying. They think Trump is their great white hope. White people need a Trump to this is their last hurrah. I think by the year 2050, whites won't be the majority.
I'm not white.
And so
you sure about that?
Your mind is.
A lot of blacks are not white.
And so
supported.
What's happening is he's become the great white hope, even though Trump doesn't like poor niggers. Trump hates poor white trash. He never, and this is what kills me, and Howard Stern told you, white people, Trump doesn't like you. He would never have anything to do with you.
33%, right?
And no policy he passes benefits you. He's got for rich people. He's for big business, not people like you, Keith.
Okay, thank you.
33% of
he wouldn't even allow you in his hotel.
33% of the
you know him and his father got sued for keeping people like you out.
33% of the black vote. Yes, that's what
he's never got.
The good Reverend Doctor, did you speak on this already before I move on?
Yeah, Trump is
in his mind. He did.
He's never gotten 33% of the black vote.
Well, what is it, Nas? 27.
9.
Well, 88% of black people voted for black men voted for Dems last time, and 95% of black women voted for Dems.
Yeah,
so no, he didn't get 30
right now. You know what it is now?
The good
we
Reverend
haven't
Doctor,
had the election yet, sir.
Good Reverend Doctor, did you comment on this?
Yeah, I commented on this, and I guess Keith has the future exit poll, so he's giving us percentages on things that haven't happened yet. Sir, give me the numbers for tomorrow. Give me the pick 5.
Well, he's calling Stephen to get them.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move on. The House approves the spending package to avert a shutdown by Michael Schnell and Eris Foley, written today at 4:20 p.m. The House on Wednesday approved a package of 6 spending bills, sending the legislation let me stop that. Sorry. Sending the legislation to the Senate days ahead of Friday's partial government shutdown deadline. The minibus, which funds a slew of programs and agencies through the end of fiscal 2024, cleared the House in a 339 to 85 vote with 207 Democrats and 132 Republicans throwing their support behind it. The 1,000-page package calls for more than 450 billion. You know, there was years ago we never even talked about packages with billions. Now it's like billion is small. We talk about trillions, but 450 billion in funding for the Departments of Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Interior, Transportation, Housing and Urban Development, Justice, Commerce, and Energy. Aguna, they passed this and had it to the Senate before the Friday deadline. Does that mean that Mike Johnson will probably be able to keep his job?
Yeah, right. I mean, he has a very slim majority in the House, and they're very temperamental as well. So it doesn't, depending on how the wind blows. You know, you got Gates and all those guys will get in there and try to impeach him, and the Democrats will just simply accommodate that. Again, you know, you got to pay your bills. You got to do. I mean, they're operating on continuing the resolution. They're going to try to keep continuing to do that until you get to the election. So it's a way they're going to kick the can down the road a little bit. But he's got to be careful. I mean, if McCarthy can teach him anything, is that, hey, those that are on your side today will be against you tomorrow. That's, I mean, if any of our viewers are watching what's happening in the Republican Party and watching how people are just cannibalizing themselves, all of a sudden, even you have Keith on here saying that Mike Pence is not a conservative. Donald Trump is more conservative than Mike Pence, and all this other. You start hearing all this stuff,
or Cheney, or Liz Cheney.
Or Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, who was more conservative, is all of a sudden is a rhino.
More conservative than Trump.
Yeah. So that's what's happening in the Republican Party. And you have, you know, the fact that you're in Congress and you have to negotiate with the Democrats and have to work with the Dems is seen as a negative thing. Is you're called a rhino for doing your job. Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening. So it'll be interesting to see if Johnson survives. I think they need somebody because, I mean, if God forbid you lose two speakers in the course of like 3-4 months, you know, what's the next? Who's going to want that job? I mean,
Right.
Again,
if you're looking at the article, Keith, it says the successful vote means the House is halfway done with the appropriations process for fiscal 2024, and we're just in March. An undertaking that has fractured the GOP conference, thrown Speaker Mike Johnson into hot water with his right flank, and required 4 short-term extensions to arrive at the current juncture. The tougher spending fight, however, lies ahead. The remaining 6 government funding bills, which fund thornier areas, such as Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, and Health and Human Services, are due March 22nd. And top appropriators say those measures will be more difficult to get over the finish line. How is Mike Johnson going to do that, Keith?
Well, they'll do it. They'll figure a way out. There's always a compromise when it comes to this. You know, we've seen it for years. So on both parties, you know, it doesn't matter who's president, Republican or Democrat, they always kick the can further down the road. And they're going to continue to do it because this human nature is such that they want to continue their spending. But, oh, by the way, Nas, I looked it up and yeah, you were right. It's about 26% of the black vote. Black men, it says black males. So black males are mostly voting for Trump. Not most, but 26% of the black vote is what Trump has right now at this point. But anyway, I just wanted to...
They haven't voted yet. What are you talking about?
That is a projection, Keith. A projection says, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have 50 touchdowns next year.
We'll see.
They haven't played yet.
Oh, you sound like Todd.
Yeah, there you go, Nas. Okay, we'll see.
All right, so thank you, Keith. Nas,
and then projections.
Nas, you want to talk about, and I want to move on, Nas, if you can start here and then Todd can continue about this House spending bill and how they have until March 22nd to finish the other big funding areas of the government so it won't shut down. Because remember, the House makes the laws, not the president. The House makes the laws. So, how does this coincide also with the testimony of federal chairman Jerome Powell today and his predictions that rates will go up, but he doesn't know when? Nas.
Yeah. So, so the first thing, Keith got it wrong. This is not a both sides problem. This is a Republican issue. Republicans figured out in 2010 that they can weaponize things like budgetary committees and just say, hey, we don't want to spend money anymore, which makes sense if you live on Mars. But in actual reality, where things have to be paid for and you have to do long-term projections on the health and wealth of your country, you can't really do that. So this game of chicken that they play every couple of years is actually hurting the country, and the Republicans are responsible for this. This is not a both sides issue. We need to be really clear about that. The second point, like Aguna was saying, like this is just a terrible job. So cult leader Mike, who for those who don't know, he's part of a fundamentalist Christian Baptist backwater snake handling group that thinks some really strange things about Christianity, not what the typical Christian believes. He's probably going to be the one in the crosshairs, similar to his predecessors, because that is an unwinnable job. They put you into a job that you just cannot win because the things they're asking you to do are not only irresponsible, but not really possible because you're part of a government that has to be run. And just quickly, just think about it. Our biggest competitors, they don't have to worry about things like this. Yi in China doesn't have to worry about this. Modi in India, they don't have to worry about things like this. So this, these parliamentary games that they're playing, which essentially you're playing with the health and wealth and credit of the United States. Remember in 2010, we got our credit downgraded when they played chicken with the budget, doing this kind of
Well,
stuff.
we just got it downgraded again a few years ago,
Yep.
Post-pandemic. Our credit dropped.
Right, but that happened to
Again,
everybody. This
after
one was
2010.
on purpose. Yeah, but this one was a particular one that happened to us because we did it on purpose. It's like Trump shooting himself in the foot. He can't help himself. You give Trump a gun, he's going to aim it on Fifth Avenue, but he damn sure ain't going to hit nobody else. He's shooting himself in the foot and drawing another criminal case because that's what he does. And that's what you're seeing from
So, Fed Chairman Powell, please.
Oh, I got nothing there. Aguna knows this game. The Fed comes out,
so I mean,
signals
with the inflation,
something. He signals something. Wall Street catches the signal, and they react to the signal. But beyond that, But yeah, go ahead, Aguna. You just play.
Oh no, that's exactly right. He's going to speculate around it. We're saying that he's going to say, inflation is cooling, right? He's going to say, hey, that doesn't mean. And I think Stacey, you meant we're going to drop rates. He's definitely not going to increase rates because if inflation is cooling, if inflation is going up, you raise rates. Inflation is going down, you tend to lower the rates. But I think people are poised, right, for the election, right? Because what's happening is you're seeing something very interesting in the housing market where home prices have gone up as well as interest rates have gone up. So now if you stabilize interest rates or you lower them, you may create another demand in the housing market where people will go off and start buying homes. Again, this is the spring. People tend to put homes on the market in the spring, but buy them in the summer so they can make the transition before kids go back to school. So it'll be interesting. And then you're going into an election.
Wait a minute, Guna. Talking to that, it's also at a point when it's interesting you talk about the housing. People who are in homes that may be worth a lot don't want to sell them. They want to sit on them and not sell them right now, because if they do, they still can't go out because the interest rates are too high and get something comparable or more or better, because their interest rates will be higher than them sitting on the nice homes that they are currently.
That's exactly right. I mean, you could sell your house, but where are you going to go, right? The trick would be to leave a high market city and move to a low market city, right? And then you could buy what you want. You want to refinance, whatever. You could buy a house cash. So if you move from a DC or New York down to Alabama, you'll be okay. And then what's happening, and we're seeing a lot of that because of the pandemic and because of the fact we can work remotely and things of that nature. So there's creating a whole different dynamic in the housing industry. Now, what else you'll see is that fact that young people now who want to live in more urban centers, they're just electing not to buy homes at all. They'll rather rent all their lives and have to worry about mowing lawns and doing all these things to maintain a house. Let the landlord deal with it. I'd rather fly to Dubai every other week. I'd rather use my money to do other things that I enjoy versus investing in a house like their parents who are now Gen X, or the baby boomers who looked at the house as a investment or in a
and also Aguna, who spent a lot of years saving so they could buy that house. That was a treasure. That was a prize. They saved a lot of money.
Saved a lot of money. The houses went up.
Home.
I mean, they had like 60% of the wealth, or 70% of the wealth, home or values in this country were held by the baby boomers. The Gen Xers went into debt in order to get the same house. And now, Gen Z and Y and all these other little letters, they can't even get a house because who's going to be able to afford 20% down on $1 million home at 25 years old, right? So,
and then the monthly mortgage.
Not only that, it's the speculators
Joe
involved
Biden.
as well. So when BlackRock and all these other, huge angel investors and speculation companies, once they got involved in it, they knocked everything up even higher. And also they created a scarcity within housing, to where if you look at Zillow and some of these other places and find out how much real estate they actually own, it will scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, I mean, the home rental market has gone through the roof, and these are a large corporations are doing it. So it's almost, they're commercializing the home market, and they're catering to a demand where folks, again, I'd rather rent than own nowadays, right? So you rather rent and be able to walk away, and move to a better apartment.
They're charging very high rents. It's not like the rents are low in these urban areas.
So the rents are high, but you get a roommate.
LA and the Chicago and the Atlanta and the Philadelphia and the Houston. It's not like the rents are $100, $500 a month.
Yeah, but it's a lower cost of entry, though. You know what I mean? It's much easier to get fixated into that than it is a mortgage.
If you can get it, so when you say it's a lower cost of entry, you're saying someone can rent an apartment for $1,200 a month and be in a decent apartment, but they can't buy a house with that.
Correct.
Yeah, it only takes you $1,200 a month, 2 months rent, 1 month rent, whatever deposit to get in there, versus 20% down on a home, right?
Which could be $30,000. But then that makes it so that you're going to have less over a period of time. This next decade or two, you're going to have less homeowners.
Not less. You'll just have fewer who own more. So essentially, this inequality kind of spirals into a bigger problem. But let me give y'all a little experiment. Think about the city you live in. Imagine if somebody went to one of the main apartment complexes and went door to door and asked for proof of verification. And then when the people pulled out, their proof of income with all the lies on it and those fake jobs that they had to add on there to be eligible for the apartment, think about how many people would actually be thrown out of their apartment if the apartment really cracked down on proof of income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there are.
So they must, if they can pay the rent, that's all that matters. Proof of income. People get money from selling drugs.
Yeah, but as an investor, you want to be able to be confident that your tenants are, as a landlord, I want to make sure my tenant can afford the home, is not going to stiff me when the month comes up, due. So yeah, I mean, but see, the thing is, nowadays the real estate market is the quickest way to wealth in this country, right? So it's fast stakes. It's hard to get in there. It's hard to get the capital together to jump in there. And that's what this country is going through. That's why you have a wealth gap in this country, because those who are wealthy in this country they own homes, they own property, they own businesses, versus those who rent, or those who, are W-2, they tend to not build wealth as fast. And that's becoming more of a gap every year. Now, I know Keith wants to blame the Democrats and blame somebody, blame. That's what we got to do, because we don't want a substantive conversation around, the fact that, corporations have become citizens in this country. And if you make a corporation a citizen, they are going to be very influential on how regulations and how things are governed.
Well, let me give you an example. Panera.
No, you can't.
The big
you
company,
can't right now.
And then you're frozen. You're not in the world.
Panera.
Keith,
They
He
Keith,
feels that that's a
no,
liberal
Keith,
country, a
They were-
liberal
Keith,
company.
not right now.
Panera, Starbucks. Keith
Not right
does
now.
not like them.
Not right now. I got to get Cousin Todd in. Cousin Todd.
No, you don't.
Oh,
No,
you heard
that
Okay.
we went way too long on
about it.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, now I got to move on.
You
Yeah.
heard about it.
Sorry.
No,
Now you
didn't.
got to move on
Um,
when it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah, Keith was gonna give us
You
some
are the
brilliant.
victim, just like Trump is the victim.
Keith, you had a turn. I thought
Yeah.
you had
See,
a
you don't
turn on
want to
this.
hear what I.
But you had a turn, right?
No, I
You
didn't have a
started
turn.
first.
You
Oh, you
should make
didn't?
a
Go ahead.
comedy
Go ahead, Keith.
special, a DVD called Silence. Yeah, they
Well,
always
what I
try to
wanted to
silence
say,
you, brother.
all I wanted to say was, and I think Aguna is probably up on it because he understands the financial. He's a financial wizard. I mean, that guy, he's pretty sharp, and I'm not kidding around when I say that. But I would just say that Panera, the big company Panera in California, they got an exempt from the minimum wage hike, $20 an hour. Governor Newsom gave them an exemption clause. And so it's kind of complicated, but we're not talking about that subject. But I'm just giving you an example of saying, they can punish who they want to, and they can exempt who they want to. So
What's punishing? What are you talking about? The
Well,
fact that they don't have
I
to
don't
pay a
even know
minimum
what
wage?
you're talking about and what that
yeah,
has
the
to do
minimum
with
wage,
Fed chairman lowering the
McDonald's,
rates.
Then
And
don't
what
then
that has
don't
to
work
do
for
with-
Panera. Then don't
it was
work for
only
Panera.
$1.95 an hour. Now McDonald's is $20 an hour. So they may automate and they may change their procedures and the way they.
It's not may, they will.
Yeah. So with that happening, Panera, which is a bread making company, a bread manufacturer, they apparently are exempt from paying a minimum wage of $20.
And is it because they said that they're not going to automate and they're going to guarantee people are going to have jobs, or what are they? There's probably something in there.
I don't have it in front of me. I can't give you the details.
Oh, okay. But you can complain about it, but you can't talk about it.
Well,
See,
no,
what we're talking about, Keith. You're bringing a paper knife to a gunfight.
Well, it's just that
Okay,
I
thank
have
you,
to
Keith.
bring that
Keith, I've got to
station.
move on. Keith,
Keith?
I'm sorry. You can't go. Yeah, but you're
You're
not.
trying to talk about. You don't know what you're talking about, Keith.
You're not
you
making
bring something up you
substantive
don't know about.
Oh, I
sense.
know that. What I told you, I know that. That is unfair.
But you don't
Okay,
know the
thank you.
details.
All right,
We're
go
going to
ahead.
move on.
The point is, I skipped my turn because we had to move. Now you just took us back to Crazy Town.
Surprise.
All right. TikTok. How many of you like and watch or get on TikTok? We're on TikTok, and we have great viewers on TikTok. But President Biden would ban TikTok. But candidate Biden is using it, they say, for his campaign. Let me read this. This is an NPR.org article written today by Deepa Shivram at 5:11 p.m.
Ooh, look at that.
The White House is doing its support
hypocrisy of it all.
behind.
How dare
The White House has thrown its support behind a bill in Congress because remember, Congress makes laws,
pleading
not the White House.
Amendment.
Hypocrite.
That
Like pleading the Fifth Amendment and saying you should never only
calm down, Stephen.
Only guilty people plead the Fifth Amendment. Therefore, I'm gonna plead the Fifth Amendment. Who did that? Trump.
Can I finish?
Go ahead. Sorry.
The White House has thrown its support behind a bill in Congress that would effectively ban TikTok, the social media app that is owned by Chinese company ByteDance in the United States. The bipartisan legislation would require ByteDance to sell the app because of national security concerns about the way it uses and stores data, or they will face a ban. The bill is important. We welcome this step, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters. The White House has long expressed concern about the national security risks of TikTok. In 2022, Biden signed a bill that banned the app on government phones. But that risk hasn't stopped President Biden's own re-election campaign from joining the platform. Nearly a month ago, Biden headquarters joined TikTok as part of an effort to reach younger voters who have been less enthusiastic about voting for Biden this November. We're going to start with Aguna on that. No, Todd, because he never got a chance to say anything. Todd.
Oh, dear, boo.
Okay, he can do both things. He can use them for what he can
Exactly.
get out of them, and then he can ban them and make them sell it to an American. I think it's a brilliant idea. Now, of course, Stephen and Keith won't unless Trump does it. So it's a good idea to use them and then ban them
Yeah.
because
All
you
that you
can't
know.
take people's intellectual properties. And this is the same thing, collecting their information and giving it to who knows who in China. So I agree with Biden.
It's not like he's getting his ties made over there, right?
Okay, Aguna.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the hypocrisy of what we call, campaigning in America today, right? So, yeah, I don't think this is a big deal. Yeah, if it's how many users are on TikTok? It's a demographic that he's trying to reach. Why would the campaign not use it? So let's not use it on the moral high ground of the fact that we want to ban it legislatively once we get elected. I mean, come on, look, if it's there, you got millions and millions of users that you're trying to reach are on there. Why would you not use it, right? But again, if people want to talk about hypocrisy, we talked about the Fifth Amendment, Trump saying you're guilty if you lead the Fifth Amendment, then he turns around and leads the Fifth Amendment. He turns around and he talks about job numbers. He blames Biden for gas prices, but then he turns around and takes credit for it. I mean, there's all kind of hypocrisy going on.
Run for president when you're being indicted. That's what he said about Hillary Clinton.
Well, I mean, again, look, we should not even say hypocrisy anymore because hypocrisy should be expected in today's political climate. It should be expected. In fact, we see it every day.
Not just Trump. What about the old guy that's coming out who said we will not entertain a Supreme Court justice during an election year until we do?
Mitch McConnell, who just also through his hat supported Donald Trump as a GOP nominee. But let me get in. We're running out of time.
Well,
I've got to do a round table.
He's a rhino.
I got to do a round table. Did anyone else want to quickly say something like the Reverend Good Doc Todd or a good Keith?
Todd just spoke, Stacy. Stacy, turn that coffee over. Get that coffee in your hand, ma'am. Sip that coffee real quick. So I think the Biden part of this story is a non-story that's just for clicks to make this like tied to the Biden campaign. Both sides have talked about getting rid of TikTok. And honestly, it's one of the dumbest things people can come up with. Like, for one, you open yourself up to retaliation. So if you get rid of TikTok, guess what China said? iPhone is the biggest phone over in China right now. You know what they say? Well, the hell with that. Y'all getting UIs. We're getting rid of this. Like, they would retaliate in a way that probably wouldn't be best for us because we need their market more than they need ours. Then the second thing would be, we just talked about the housing crisis and the things Gen Z and all these have to go through. You gonna take their TikTok from them too? Y'all better leave them young kids alone. Y'all done enough to these young children out here. And the one thing they can do after they get off their gig worker job and their 9 to 5 is get home and watch some damn TikToks on their phone. Leave them kids alone.
Well, I think that's the problem, though. I think that's the problem. Do you know what TikTok in China is doing? It's like basically it's for educational purposes. So they're using TikTok to get smarter. We're using it to see cat dancing and all this other stuff. They're importing stupidity into the United States via TikTok.
Of a free society, sir, is people get to choose their entertainment. So if we like dumb stuff,
we can't make it easy for them. We can't make it easy for Americans to get dumber.
Thank you.
It's gonna happen anyway.
Keith, did you want to make a comment about TikTok?
Well, I actually agree with Mr. Aguna. Yeah, I know Aguna has kids, so he has some. So he definitely understands. Nas. Well, I don't know what his. Well, I do know what his problem is, but I'm not.
He's a Marxist. That's his problem.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, the thing I wanted to say also.
Wait a minute. I want to say something too.
Let me just
idea that somebody has kids and therefore that means now they care about other people. What raggedy person is out here only caring about other human beings if their child is involved? What the hell kind of mentality is that?
Well,
don't
that's
the
the
women
mentality
don't the
that
women who
Todd
believe?
said. That's the mentality that Todd said Keith has at the start of the show. He said if Keith had children, he'd understand about Trayvon Martin, or if someone follows Keith's wife around, he'd understand about Trayvon Martin. So
Well,
Todd
I have
basically
two
argued
nieces.
that earlier.
I have
Big
two
dog, and
nieces
it
that I
holler.
care for. I have two nieces I care about. So, but I mean, that's the same thing the women say about men and abortion. I can't talk about abortion because I'm a man. So anyway, but
All
anyway,
That
right,
analogy, that's a
we're going to do a
terrible.
go back
roundtable.
God,
to go back
That
real
is
quickly. Just to go back real quickly on that,
I really don't want you to,
James.
Keith.
Well, you didn't want me to say anything about okay
free
about
Keith.
that.
Free Keith.
Well, the thing is, we have factions in this country, and the James Madison gave us a solution to faction. You know, he actually penned the Constitution. James Madison said instead of getting rid of the factions, we need to learn to control the factions. So, hey, you're going to have more government control.
big
That's the way it
government
Thank you.
should
Keith.
be.
Once again, big government Keith.
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
Are you
thank you.
saying government's the
We're going
answer,
to start
Keith?
our roundtable.
No, I didn't say that. I said we've got to control the faction. We do that by
Censorship,
educating the people
limiting freedom
to
of
reject
speech.
the faction, educate the people to reject or to cope with the faction.
Educate them
Not try.
Re-education,
through government
re-education
indoctrination.
camps.
No,
Oh,
we do
okay.
it through our founding principles,
Through
and we teach
but
them
the
how
government
to
does it.
govern themselves.
The
Teach our
government does it.
children. No, it's like this. You teach your children how to
You ain't
govern
no conservative.
themselves, not how to be governed by TikTok. Simple as that. I have to really break it
Well,
down to you guys.
who incentivizes that? The government.
No,
Aguna,
you
please
do.
stop.
You
Aguna,
do.
please
You're the
stop.
father.
Aguna.
Stephen Aguna, calm down.
You're the head of your house.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I got
So,
information for
Please
the
stop.
house.
You're just getting
I have
him
free
going.
choice. I'm a man,
All right,
Stacy. I'm a
thank
man.
you.
Yeah,
Stacey,
you're the
I'm
man
a
of the
man.
house. You're the man of the house. I got
Man
information
over
for
there with
Nas.
more teeth than anybody on earth talking about something. He know what my problem is. Nah, you know what your problem is. You get that hairline together and pull them teeth in.
Oh, dang, man, Keith, you can't go
All
out
right,
like
thank
that,
you.
Keith.
We're going to start our roundtable. We're out of time, so I want you to talk about a few
That was
things. We're
messed
going to
up.
start with Keith, then the good Reverend Doc, then Aguna, and then Cousin Todd. You've got like 30
Dang.
seconds. Talk about the devastation in Gaza as Israel wages war on Hamas, and they tried to have some sort of negotiation prior to the holy Ramadan. Start with Keith.
Well, I'll just say it this way. We are not the ones that should negotiate for Israel. We should support Israel to negotiate for itself. Let Israel,
Thank
they have
you.
the right to defend themselves, and that is the way that should work. We should not
with
be
my
in
Thank
their
you.
money.
business
Not
otherwise.
with my money.
Thank you.
And
The good
James,
Reverend Doctor.
yeah.
The good Reverend
Yeah,
Doctor.
See how
yeah,
fast she
again,
cut me off?
slow-moving
We know what you're
genocide.
gonna say.
This is slow-moving genocide. They're not interested in negotiation. They don't want hostages back. They want the land. They want to drive these people out and take over the land and bring up new settlements and resort areas. So this is the Nakba Part 2.
Thank you.
Next.
Aguna.
Yeah, if you take my money, I get to say what you do. Period. All right, we're
Don't
giving
give us the
billions of
money.
dollars over there. Yeah, we do. Then don't take my money. Then, all right, don't take my money if you don't want me to have an opinion about what you're doing with it. And if you're
You can have
killing
an opinion.
kids, you're killing kids and doing all this other stuff. Yes, we have a right to come in there and say, you know what, chill out with that. And in fact, we have an obligation. It's not even the right; it's an obligation. This is, I mean, nobody. The longer this thing goes on, the worse Israel looks to the world. And eventually, if not already, something has to give. The world's opinion of Israel is going down by the day. All these images coming in, it's a humanitarian crisis. Somebody has to be the adult in the room and say enough is enough.
Do you apply that
Thank
to
you.
Ukraine as well?
Yes, that's why we supply them with money. Yeah, it's a proxy war. This is hey, look.
Thank you, Cousin
I'm
Todd.
the last Reagan Republican type. I believe in a
Hold
global
on, Stephen. Hold on,
strategy.
Stephen.
Cousin Todd.
That is good. Israel went too far. Whenever you have people who are hungry, cold, desperate, going to get food, and they're they're surrounded and then
Slaughtered.
fired on. Oh, they have crossed the line there. When they were, the bottom line is, uh, Israel is looking like cowards,
Mhm.
and these are children being killed and women. It is just, uh, and people, you're watching this now in real time. And when Benjamin Netanyahu says we're not stopping, period. Well, while he's taking your money, something's got to give here.
Mhm.
The disrespect for Joe Biden is, I don't understand why Joe Biden is allowing it for so long. But this is an election year, and he's recognizing that the American people do not like this, especially the younger people, the college age children people. And so now Kamala Harris is talking a bit more forcefully, and so is he. But unless he really takes the reins and stops Benjamin Netanyahu from killing innocent people, he might not get elected because young
I
people.
think he's making a calculation here. I think it's coming. There's no way it's not going to come because at the end of the day, he can pick up the phone today and say enough is enough, stop, and Netanyahu's arms will be tired. Will be tired.
mm, well, presidents have been telling Netanyahu to stop for years.
But you cut the
And
funding and you cut. He's like, look, you're not going to get any more of this until now. There's going to be a
Mhm.
backlash to that because you're going to have a Keith on here saying Israel is the Lord, all Savior God, and if you're not doing this, you're a failure. Even.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, what would Jesus do?
Not to
Okay,
mention,
thank
he
you.
wouldn't get those voters anyway.
I know what
Thank
Jesus
you.
is about to do. I'll tell you that much.
Different subject. Please look
No,
at your
you do
screen.
not.
Todd asked me about this a week ago or more. Alabama lawmakers set to finalize IVF legislation, but experts say it's going
Big
to take
government.
more to protect fertility services, starting with Keith, then the good Reverend Dr. Aguna and Cousin Todd. Is a child an embryo?
Well, the Supreme Court says so. Or was it the state court? Which one was it,
It
guys?
was the Supreme Court of Alabama.
Yeah. Okay.
Read the article.
Yeah. So the Supreme Court of Alabama says so. It says that they're a person. So hallelujah. Go for it.
Thank you. The Reverend Good Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, this brings up kind of a famous social media meme we've seen for years, where the person says, "I never thought the leopards eat your face party would eat my face." So these people who have these who have, who have these ideas about what they want to do to other people, how they want other people restricted. Well, once again, they find out, well, those people don't care about you either. And now you've seen this process, which has helped so many families actually conceive, was on the chopping block as well. And now these people are angry, and the Republicans are going to have to, reshuffle a bit and figure out some kind of provision to keep part of this in there because their base didn't like this. This is actually going at them too. They just wanted you to hurt Dems, not to hurt them.
Mhm.
Okay, Aguna, did you see them holding up signs in the CNN.com article? You can't cuddle an embryo, and IVF made me a mom. Aguna.
Yeah, this is why the government should stay out of people's bedrooms and people's private choices when it comes to these medical issues, right? And again, nobody is, I know Stephen was on here to be going off about killing babies and all this stuff, but it's like, look, it's between a woman, her family, her doctor, and her God. I mean, it's simple. The government shouldn't have anything to do with these things. And as you start seeing these, every pregnancy is high risk. Every pregnancy is a story behind, that a family or someone's going through something, and it is a life or death situation for the mother and the woman who is carrying and so you have these things where some women can't carry it. Some women,
Okay.
it's just such a complicated issue that the government should stay out and just give people their privacy in order
Cousin, thank you,
to
Aguna.
address it.
Cousin Todd, woman is holding a poster up in this picture saying, God said, be fruitful and multiply. and also protect IVF in Alabama.
Hallelujah.
I guess Cousin Todd isn't available. We'll let him answer that next week because we're out of time. To our
I got
first
a question.
responders and
I got a
Stacey,
question.
to our first responders, excuse
Stacey,
me.
I just want to say this. The Eagles are going to win the World Series. Surprise. Dang, Todd, I guess Todd had the last word there.
All right. To our first responders in our communities, you make our lives livable. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do and sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose on the show. We are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative,
Can you actually get a newer one of
Stephen,
those?
the independent thinker who had technical difficulties and couldn't join us tonight, and my cousin
I'm the
Todd.
man,
Thank
Stacey.
you, the good Reverend Doctor, for joining us as usual. We'll talk to you next week. Good night. Ooh, you
Keith,
guys
man.
went on and on and on and on.
Hey, I got two things for you, Guna. Here's something here. You
Keith,
say you don't
needed
want
Steven tonight. You
you
needed
say you
Steven. I
want
know you
government
missed him.
involved. No, you serious. You don't want government involved in our business like that, in the bedroom or wherever you want to say. Well, either the government is going to protect the so-called right to choose of the woman to choose, or the government is going to protect the life of the child. But government is still involved either way. So how do you explain, what do you say to that?
Government is involved how, Keith?
The government is involved by protecting the woman's right to choose.
No,
In other words, that's what the government.
So you're protecting the woman's right to choose, or you're
Yeah.
protecting the fetus
life
or
of
the
the child.
embryo life
the life
right
of the
to what? To live?
Yes.
Can they live outside the mother?
Not at that stage. But
Okay, so whose right is more important, the mother or the embryo?
well, when it comes to rights,
So the embryo has a right to live outside the mother. So let's separate them.
yeah,
Right?
they have a right
So
to.
unless you're saying that the embryo has more rights than the mother, it sounds like you're saying the embryo has more rights than the mother.
No, the embryo has the same rights as a mother. The right
No,
to
but
live.
you're not giving it. No, clearly they're not. That's not true. Because you're
Why not?
saying that if you're saying that the mother has to carry the embryo, then you're by default saying that the mother's rights are less than the embryo. It can't be the same.
No, it has to be the same. It is the
But
same.
you're again.
Right.
Maybe if I
I'll
can say
get
this
right.
slowly, if the
rights
mother has no right to choose whether or not to carry the fetus or not, right? And you're saying that
She
her
has a
right,
right.
she can't choose that because by choosing that, you're superseding the rights of the embryo, right? Because you're saying that the embryo has rights to live, but you're saying that the mother doesn't have the right for the embryo not to live in them.
Because
right?
the mother
basically you're saying her rights are less than the embryo.
No, the mother.
Squatters' rights, Aguna. Squatters' rights.
To have sex with the father. And therefore, the mother does have a right. And if she was raped,
What are you talking about?
You guys are from a generation don't understand. If the woman has already chosen to have sex and she gets pregnant,
she's giving up her rights. If she's choosing to have sex, she's giving up her rights because she has to.
Giving up her right. The right still goes to the child as much as the mother. The child has a right to live, and the mother has an obligation.
You're talking about an embryo. You
that
just
child
flipped
is
the conversation.
Every right comes an obligation. But of course, you guys don't understand.
I know one thing.
I understand this. I understand that
blows and
it's none of my business.
The
other thing I wanted to say,
I understand it's none of my business, and I need to stay out of it. The government needs to stay out of it. You're trying to say by default the government is involved, but I argue the government is not involved in that decision unless they insert.
Roe v. Wade is the government decision by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and what was that? What was that?
That was the government
decision. What was the decision?
The decision, Roe v. Wade.
What was the decision is what I'm asking you.
Well, you tell me. You're the one who was.
See, you don't know the decision. The decision
Well,
says that the individual has the right to privacy. No, it was based on the rights. Based on
Roe v. Wade
privacy grounds.
made it legal across the country.
No, because it was based on privacy rights. It's saying that the government should not have the right to invade your privacy. Therefore, you can determine whether or not you can have an abortion. And they didn't ban abortion; they just pushed it down to the states, who, in fact, so your argument is counterintuitive in the fact that you're saying the government needs to enforce taking away somebody's rights by right to choose.
With the right comes the obligation to see.
What's an obligation?
No, the obligation is to have.
Is an obligation a law?
Obligation is to bear the child and allow the child to live.
Is that a law, or is that a moral authority that you're God? It's God's the law of God.
Yes.
We're talking about man. We're talking about we're talking
man's
about
law.
God damn it!
He is supreme.
Got hurt.
So he's okay. So there's no separation of church and state.
There is
because what you feel that God is saying, because what your version of God supersedes.
Not my version.
It is because a woman may say, "God forgives me. He's giving me this right, but He'll forgive me."
Well, yes, He will.
Okay. Thank you, Keith.
Stay out of it.
Now, one other thing. Okay, they're involved.
No, not another thing, Keith.
No, they're involved. They're involved.
Cousin Todd is back, and Cousin Todd. Although we've closed the show out, did you want to make a comment about the IVF? And Steven said he misses everybody. He should have called in another way.
So Keith, let me ask Keith this:
He wasn't missed.
He doesn't miss this. If you have an aging parent who is suffering and you decide to pull the plug, are you saying that's not, you don't have the right to decide that? Or
well, I'll give you this scenario. I'll answer your question and I'll just say it this way.
This analogy
I don't mind
is about to be
it.
terrible.
My grandmother was 99, I think she was almost 100. She was 99 years old, well, about 100. And she, on her deathbed, I stood in front over my grandmother, and my grandmother was able to whisper to me that she wanted to go. And so we said the doctor, give her morphine, slow drip. And that's the way it ended for her. She wanted to go.
She couldn't talk.
She told me. She didn't tell me that. So there.
Well, no, what I'm saying, my analogy was if someone is brain dead and they have a loved one who's still alive, but is brain dead and they can't whisper in your ear like your grandmother did, would you want the government to come in there and say you have no right to pull this plug because they're alive?
Well, the government does say that. And to a certain extent, there are health care laws. There are health, there are definitely rules, and it should be between the doctor and.
What are you doing right now?
I mean, what are we really talking about? What are we really talking about?
Hey, I'm sure
that's why we're saying. I mean, these are private decisions.
Yeah,
these
I know,
but
there
decisions made by people. Do you think
Donald Trump
let me
walked
ask
in
you
and pulled the plug
decisions being
on this
made?
lady? I seen it. I'm just telling y'all, this happened.
Laguna, when we got
do you think a pregnancy? You think having an abortion is easy for a woman? You think women just have abortions because they feel like
government is already forcing its?
You didn't answer the question. Do you think having
he's
an abortion
not going to answer the question?
Decision?
Todd's going to leave. I'm going to leave. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
You guys can't take a single
gulag.